Alright, and welcome back to episode 7. This is the Battle of Seven Pines. This is kind of out of order of what is typically done, but I just kind of like doing this battle first as I think it's the easier of the three. We're only going to pick up some sharps for our sniper unit and pick up a few 24-pounders to finish off that first division. We're going to keep putting points into economy. We're going to get to about 9, and then we're going to put our 6th point in. Spent some reputation to get some harps to give to some of our units that we're going to use in this battle. This battle only needs, I think, 6 units, as is going to be shown here. So we're just going to take, or I think it's 7, yeah, not 6. So we're going to take 4 infantry, a 24-pounder, and a sniper unit on the side. This is going to be our last mission for a while that's going to use a lot of ally troops. So we're going to try to take advantage of those this battle. We're going to take a lot of hits on our allied troops, and we're going to try to use our troops to hit them in the flanks. The initial movement here on this battle is to kind of retreat these guys back so that you can get your forces in to join, and you can get these guys into good cover. The enemy starts the battle off charging. Here, I'm falling back, and he takes a shot into this artillery, as you're going to see here. That's not ideal, but it's not a huge problem. You know, the artillery taking damage means that we have a chance of potentially picking up one of those guns if he loses them. But he actually doesn't get a full volley off, so as you can see, I'm just trying to get these units on the flanks into cover so they're not taking too much damage so they don't rout. Meanwhile, I'm going to have my troops move up and actually hit these guys in the flank. And so he's charging here in the center, or in this top part of the flank. I'm going to try to get this unit up here to hit his flanks before he can complete that charge. And these artillery units that you have that are allied units, I believe they're 10-pound parrots. They're pretty decent artillery at long range, but they're not incredible at close range, so I'm going to try to keep them back, try to keep them doing constant damage, but I'm not going to be using them quite like I'm going to be using my 24-pounder, which is a weapon that we're going to be constantly bringing forward and trying to get close range damage in on. So yeah, the enemy is super aggressive on this battle, just charging all over the place, and it's going to be our goal to try to contain that aggression. As you can see there, he was starting to turn to shoot at my division there. I just had them fall back a bit so that he instead focuses on this small brigade of allied troops. It wasn't super good, this battle, about keeping my general and specifically my supply wagon close to the battle. That's something I've got to be a little bit better at, especially when we get a little further into the campaign. It doesn't end up hurting us too bad on this battle, as we get by with a pretty good result, but in future battles it's going to be more critical that we keep that unit up. So this general's kind of going to be bouncing back and forth between the different allied units. And here he's going to charge. I'm going to try to use the fallback technique. And he is actually going to stop, but he's going to stop kind of right in melee range. And I don't want to fall back too much farther, as now he's in good cover and I'm not. Here he's charging into my small unit in the center. My other allied unit is retreating. But that's okay, as we're just using those guys as sort of our meat shields for this battle. So we were able to get a volley of 24-pounder in on that unit that charged. We were able to fire into his flanks. And now he's going to charge this unit all the way to the top of the map, which means he's going to give his flanks to both of my units, which is great. He's going to come charging it with the skirmisher unit. Like I said, he's just really hyper aggressive on this battle, and we're going to try to use that aggression against him by having him instead charge my allied units while our units hit him in the flank and get lots of damage done. So luckily this ally unit is really sticking it out over here, which is great, so I'm going to be able to come up and get a volley off on him. I think the mistake I made on this battle was potentially pushing a little bit too hard here in the south and not hard enough here in the north. I think ideally we would have preferred to push his troops to the southwestern corner, where there's not a lot of cover, where there's shallows that we can get more damage in on him. Instead, he kind of ends up retreating straight west, and he ends up in some of this good cover over here. You can kind of see on the left side of the screen. It's a little bit less than ideal, but luckily he focuses most of his shots, even when we get to this point, on allied units, so we don't take too much damage. And he does have 2 artillery units on this battle, so we have to be careful not to let those do damage to us. There you see in the south, I was trying to move those units up, and they did that funny bug where you tell them to move in place and they instead switch positions, which is kind of annoying. Didn't catch that during the actual battle. And yeah, here they go. They're still moving into position, whereas if they had just moved forward, they would have been in position potentially to fire on him, but luckily we don't get punished too much for it. So we've secured the center. This is one of those battles where luckily even securing the objective doesn't end the battle, so we can continue fighting on this one. Here he's going to come charging in with 2 different units. Luckily this unit in the far north is pretty low, so we can actually give him our flanks and fire on these charging troops. Normally we wouldn't want to do that, but in this case he's only getting 1 or 2 shots off every second, so even though it says flanked up there, in reality he's actually doing very low, or very small amount of morale damage at the moment. So we're going to have this other unit move up, try to protect that flank. And I'm just trying to move into this cover. You know, once we take this tree cover in the north, we're going to be in pretty good shape. And we're just going to continue moving down the center with our ally units, trying to take the bulk of the damage. And we're getting closer and closer to his artillery. And once we take his artillery out and kind of move him against the edge of the wall, we've basically got this battle in the bag. This is one of the quicker battles we're going to fight. It's just us kind of relentlessly pushing across the map, pushing his troops into the pocket that we're going to create. So this unit here in the north is going to retreat to the top, the northwestern corner that is, and we're going to try to just bottle him up here with one of these allied units. That's ultimately kind of the goal of the whole mission. It's slightly more ideal if you can bottle all the troops up into one pocket, but in this case, having just this one unit in its own separate pocket is going to work out for us just fine. So I think if I had committed one more infantry unit up here to the north instead of the south, I could have potentially pushed these guys south instead of pushing them into this tree line. Our sniper unit also doesn't do a whole lot of damage on this mission just because it's so short. So I think perhaps in future it makes sense to, instead of taking the sniper unit, just taking a 5th infantry unit. I can't say for sure if that would have been a better result, as we do have a pretty good result still in this battle, but it's something to continue experimenting with as we do these campaigns. So I'm finally getting some shots in on his artillery here. His artillery numbers are starting to fall. That's really great. Anytime you can remove the enemy artillery, you should definitely take advantage of it. Looks like my snipers took some shots there. I think maybe they might have been visible and the enemy artillery hit them. I'm not exactly sure. This is one of those battles where you're kind of poking around trying to control your units on the north and south, and sometimes you miss micro a little bit. So those initial 2 units are actually getting really low now. I think one of them is actually going to shatter before this battle is over, and that's just fine with us. The allied units in this battle actually have 55 Springfields, which are pretty good rifles, so kind of can counterintuitively, the more of them that fall in battle, the more of those weapons we're going to get to use in future battles. So, and that's a weapon that we're pretty happy to use. It's essentially a harp, which is what we're using right now, but with slightly less range and I think slightly lower stats. It's like 1 extra, reload or something like that for a harp, and maybe 2 extra accuracy. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. Needless to say, not a huge difference. Enough that we're gonna prefer the harp, but not so much that we're going to complain about using the 55 too much. So as you can see here, we've kind of got him boxed in already here. We're not quite in a full encirclement yet, and we do need to push him out of this wood line that he's retreating back into. But as long as we can get some troops into cover ourselves and try to convince him to focus on those troops, especially allied troops, we'll be able to pull this battle off. And I could have potentially moved my 24 pounder up a little bit more here, but there's always something to slightly improve upon, and keeping your artillery as close as possible is always something to be mindful of. I think it's really crucial. Try to get these troops into cover. My division there takes a big volley in the north, but once we get him out of these woods, we're going to be in really good shape. So we're going to take that and try to capitalize on it. So this is kind of the last difficult moment. He's sort of recovering from his initial routes right in this good cover. This is kind of what I meant when I said earlier that it might have been better to push him south. And we're out in the open. He's in good cover. This is exactly what we don't want. Luckily, this battle we have the benefit of sort of leaning on our allied troops. So we're going to try to use these allied troops to sort of extricate him from this good defensive position. And we're also going to try to prevent him from retreating south. Now that we have him sort of bottled up here, we might as well finish him off here. If he starts retreating to the south, we might lose. He might break out of containment, and that would mean we kind of have to start over. So we're going to try to keep him from retreating too hard here in the south. And I think just by leaving this unit here and also having that sniper unit there to do damage is going to help us achieve that. So I'm trying to keep my ally units as close as possible to the front so that he focuses on them and doesn't fire on our troops that we're going to keep throughout this campaign. Now you can see we've got him pretty much completely encircled. We're closing the gap here in the north. We've got an extra unit coming in there in the south. We're in good cover now in the center. We do have a unit retreating here in the kind of middle south, but that same unit that just put a big volley into him is also giving his flank to our 24 pounder and our infantry, so he's not going to be able to stay there much longer. We are going to fall back a little bit here. We don't need to be overly aggressive, even if these are allied troops. We still want to keep these troops in somewhat good conditions so they can continue to fight. And we do have them pretty well bottled up here. This unit here in the north is keeping this guy bottled up, but he's out of ammo now. This is what I meant by But we need to be a little bit more proactive about keeping this supply wagon up here, helping out in the battle. But it's not going to be too critical. He's gonna be able to reload and get shots off often enough to keep him routing, and that's really all we need him to do is try to pin him in place up there. And have my ally artillery unit also move up there to help to do some damage to him. And now we've got him pretty much encircled. He's not going anywhere. He's all in a ball, which is just what we want. He does have a supply wagon in there that we might want to capture, but that isn't the primary objective. So I'm just going to speed up the footage here. I'm going to turn off my allied units from firing so that my full-time units can get the stats they need to improve. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this battle. We just move up here. We finish these guys off. I'm going to speed up the footage even further now, as now it's just a finish mopping him up, grab the supply wagon or what's left of his supply, move my units up here and beat this last unit and move on to the next battle. So here we go. 1 volley, 2 volley, 3 volley, 4 volley, done. And there we go. That's the end of this battle. Pretty good results. We're happy with it. We got a 20.7 kill ratio, which is what we're happy about. Our allied units take a lot of these hits. Our units come out pretty healthy. We capture a lot of good weapons, not just from the enemy, but also from our own allied units' losses. We take some supplies, and we don't have any of our officers hurt. So mission accomplished. We're really happy. These are weapons that we've captured we can use later on. Alright, and here's the post-battle results screen. Just want to thank everyone for watching and hope to see you next time. Bye.